An NBA insider has revealed multiple new targets for Leon Rose and the New York Knicks as they look for their next head coach, while the Knicks do everything in their power to be very diligent in their search in order to find the perfect head coach to help the Knicks get over the hump and win the 2026 NBA Finals. And we're going to break all of this down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here, and we're going to jump right into things as always. Guys, if you're part of that 71% that's not subscribed to Knicks Digest, make sure to subscribe right now for daily New York Knicks content. You do not want to miss out on any of the stuff we have coming out, so make sure to be subscribed. Now, with that being said, let's jump into the video because we have seen multiple different names come up in this New York Knicks head coaching search. As it is widely known to be a fact, the Knicks are going to be very diligent with their head coaching search. The Knicks, now that it's officially the NBA offseason, as the NBA's resident boy band, Oklahoma City Thunder, did win the NBA Finals, deservingly so, as the best team in the NBA this season. And the Knicks now turn all their attention towards their head coaching search. And on top of that, now having the flexibility to do a lot more as the season is officially over. So guys, taking a look at a bunch of the names, we've heard all the classics. We've heard a ton about Johnny Bryant. We've talked about Mike Malone. We've talked about Mark Jackson on this channel. We've talked about the obvious ones, the Jason Kidds, the Mike Browns, the Taylor Jenkinses. There's already been a bunch of names floated that we know the New York Knicks have a ton of interest in. However, the Knicks are known to be very diligent with this search, and NBA insider Ian Begley highlighted 3 more names for fans to look out for. The first one being Jerry Stackhouse, with Begley saying, "I know Jerry Stackhouse has a close relationship with William Wesley, and the Knicks have been talking about casting a wide net and talking to different candidates. At least checking in on many different candidates, that is." So obviously this is a big thing here, and Stackhouse is an interesting guy. Is Raptors GM Masai Ujiri gave Stackhouse his first NBA coaching job as an assistant with the Raptors. He also coached in the NBA Development League, winning Coach of the Year and a championship in 2017 with the Raptors 905. Stackhouse spent the previous 5 seasons coaching college as the head coach for Vanderbilt University. Although he doesn't feel limited to either side of the ball in his coaching capabilities, defense has been a point of emphasis in his philosophy that will be a focal point with the Golden State Warriors, or was a focal point when they hired him last season to be an assistant coach for the team. Now, as Stackhouse said, it was more about getting help from the defensive side of the ball and having a former player to help with the younger guys. So that's something about the role that he played with the Warriors. Stackhouse is a pretty, I want to say, just balanced type of coach. His style doesn't necessarily lean towards offense or defense, but he's been a well-regarded coach who, back when he won that Coach of the Year with Raptors 905, he was floated around for a lot of NBA head coaching jobs, and then it felt like that kind of fell off the map pretty randomly. Stackhouse won that Coach of the Year. He won a championship with Raptors 905, and it felt like he was the next up to be an NBA head coach. However, it never fully culminated. Now, he did obviously spend some time coaching Vanderbilt University, which he absolutely got involved with, and we saw not great stuff when he was there. He had a win percentage of .432, going 70-92 in those 5 years before evidently moving on to being an assistant coach on Steve Kerr's bench with the Golden State Warriors. Now, Steve Kerr's not someone who's going to last forever in the NBA, and there is definitely going to be the thought that Stackhouse could end up being next in line for that job, though I'd also not be shocked if it just stays in the family and it goes to his son Nicholas's. So everyone knows why I said Nicholas there. Gonna push past that, but you have to acknowledge it, let's be real. But look, in regards to Stackhouse, he's someone who Knicks fans float around a lot before the Knicks hired Thibodeau, and even before the Knicks hired Jeff Hornacek in 2017. The Knicks, or David Fizdale, I should say, in around that span. And it just kind of felt like he was going to get that job, and he never did. However, there's other coaches that we also are looking at. One of them being a personal favorite of mine. As Ian Begley said, I'd be surprised if the Knicks didn't check in on Terry Stotts. Currently with Golden State, I do think at the end of the day, you're looking at more of a Stotts type. Just a coach with experience in comparison to a guy like a Dave Bliss, who does not have head coaching experience in the NBA. Now, NBA.com also talked about Terry Stotts. saying Stotts' Trailblazers teams were consistently amongst the best offensive in the league, finishing top 3 in offensive rating 5 times. He has an experience building a unit around the dynamic sharpshooting guard in Damian Lillard. Lillard operated far more with the ball in his hands in Portland with an isolation pick and roll attack. His co-star, CJ McCollum, had a very similar shot diet, and much of Portland's offensive success came from their explosive backcourt. Now, I always felt like there was an issue in regards to the Terry Stotts situation with Portland. It wasn't his fault, and he shouldn't have been fired. The Trailblazers were built horribly as an organization. They had no defense between their 3 best players in Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, and Yusuf Nurkic, and no interest in breaking that unit up. And because of that, things did not work. Now, yes, the Trailblazers eventually traded CJ McCollum for Josh Hart, and then ended up trading Josh Hart for a first-round pick in Cam Reddish to the Knicks, obviously. But really what we saw in this span was Terry Stotts catch the blame for this. I don't think it was Terry Stotts' fault. Now, Stotts is an offensively minded head coach. His offenses have been great, and with a ball-dominant guard like Damian Lillard, we could totally see it working in New York with a ball-dominant guard in Jalen Brunson, especially one who does not really play great defense. We saw over the span, over the 8 years, that Terry Stotts was the coach of the Portland Trailblazers. They were very successful. Through that 8-year span, the Clippers, the Warriors, and the Houston Rockets were the 3 teams above the Trailblazers in offensive rating. Now, the Clippers had just a litany of talent throughout that span. The Golden State Warriors were winning championship after championship after championship. And the Houston Rockets had that James Harden team, or those James Harden teams that had mixes of Chris Paul. They had that squad that was just primarily built around Harden, with Patrick Beverley most notably at that point guard spot, and then also the team with Russell Westbrook. And those teams were so offensively minded and offensively focused and just elite on the offensive end because of what James Harden was able to create in that Mike D'Antoni style of offense that clearly worked really, really well. So we see a guy in Terry Stotts who's able to coach just a phenomenal offense. And I absolutely think that Terry Stotts is someone the Knicks are going to interview. I'd be surprised if they didn't. I think the one thing about Stotts is he is 67 years old. He's not exactly young. The Knicks just got rid of an older head coach, the oldest head coach in the NBA, in fact, with Greg Popovich retired from coaching. And it became this situation where you're sort of like, okay, are we going to go back to that? And it's fine if you are, if you think that works. I'm not saying you have to hire a younger coach, but Rick Carlisle was the oldest coach to coach in the NBA Finals, and maybe you do look at something like that and wonder if there's a bit of fear there. Obviously, Stotts' teams with Portland did not perform great in the playoffs. We're not going to sit here and pretend that they did. They did not have it come the playoffs at all because, well, frankly, the team was not that good. It was Damian Lillard and McCollum and Nurkic were good players. Carmelo Anthony was good when he was on the team, but it wasn't like they were ever super deep. It was never like they had any sort of competent defense. I mean, again, we saw a year, the one where they were in the bubble and they were the 8th seed and they were going to get eliminated if Melo didn't hit 2 corner threes to save the season. But your 4 best players are Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, Carmelo Anthony, and Yusuf Nurkic. Like, none of them were good defenders. None of them played defense. So it became that thing of, okay, clearly this is not the right team built. We're going to fire Terry Stotts because they got bounced 4 out of 5 times in the first round. The one time they didn't, they ended up making the Eastern Conference, or the Western Conference Finals against the Golden State Warriors. A matchup they lost, and yeah, Kevin Durant wasn't there because he had that calf injury that turned into the Achilles tear. But at the same time, it was still a Warriors team that had Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala, JaVale McGee, a good bench in general that they were able to stick it out and destroy Portland, who just had a lot less talent on the roster. I don't think all of this was on Stotts, and now Stotts being an assistant coach with the Warriors, who's helped them out a ton and has a very fast-paced style of offense that maximizes a lot of ball movement and a lot of passing. I think it would work well for this Knicks team. I believe that if Stotts does get an interview with the Knicks, which I expect him to, I think that the Knicks will like what they see, and I do think Terry Stotts, out of the 3 guys I'm mentioning in this video, does have the best chance to become the next head coach of the Knicks. However, there is another guy we have to go over that was mentioned by Begley and has been mentioned by Knicks fans in the past, and just, well, to dive right into it, it's none other than Dave Bliss. Now, Ian Begley said Dave Bliss, a former Knicks assistant coach, has done a great job with Oklahoma City. He and Josh Longstaff, another former Knicks assistant on that staff, have done very well for themselves. If they haven't formally reached out, the Knicks being, I imagine they will have their homework done on these guys who could be out there. Now, it's important to note that on top of all this, there is more to consider when you look at a Dave Bliss, when you look at a Jerry Stackhouse. And that's Begley saying, based on the landscape, I don't know if they've ruled anything out. I think it's fair to expect them to hire a coach with experience because obviously they said in their statement they're singularly focused on winning a championship. If you want to get there, to me, you're putting yourself at longer odds if you hire someone who's never done the job. So I think you can assume it's going to be someone with experience, whether it's Jenkins, Mike Brown, Jason Kidd, someone else. I can't see them bringing in a new assistant who's never done the job because of the level they're trying to reach and they're trying to get back to and get beyond. The Knicks are trying to win. They're trying to win now. It's not like when Mark Diagonal got hired by the Thunder. They were not ready yet. He was a young coach, so he got time to develop with the team. And they're the easiest example considering I'm filming this 5 minutes after Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Thunder just won the NBA Finals. And on top of that, we've also seen Steve Kerr step into a team that was doing really well before him and then get elevated because his coaching philosophy worked well. So we've seen this work in the past. So I don't necessarily agree with Begley 100% here, but I see why it makes sense. It's not lost on me. It's not lost on the Knicks either. And it's one of the reasons why I think the Knicks will evidently go with someone who was a head coach before. It just makes sense, especially the last time they hired someone. They hired Thibodeau, who was a head coach twice over before. They're looking at Mike Brown and Taylor Jenkins, who have been head coaches before. They've looked at Jason Kidd, who's coached 3 teams already in the NBA. So it does match up with what we've been hearing, and I would not be shocked if that evidently does happen, that we do see just the New York Knicks go with a guy who is definitely, or who does have experience head coaching an NBA team. But I could also still see it being Johnny Bryant. I could see it being Dave Bliss. I could see it being Jerry Stackhouse. Feels unlikely. I could totally see it being Terry Stotts. As of right now, my guess is that it's Taylor Jenkins or Johnny Bryant. But anything could still happen. We'll have a lot more updates on this. We'll make sure to keep you guys in the loop, dropping videos on this as much as possible. I just don't want to make you guys sick of hearing coach talk. Let me know what you think about this down below. Do you want to hear more coach talk? Let me know what you want to hear from me. I'll be sure to make those videos. Whatever you guys want to hear me do, I will make. Thank you so much for all the support. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Shout out to, as my brother put it, the NBA's equivalent to Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch and the Oklahoma City Thunder. And he's absolutely right. I don't know why. The Thunder just are a boy band, and I can't explain it. But they were the best team in the NBA, and they fully deserve to win a championship. Tune into Thunder Digest. Watch Bryson Akins have a wonderful time there. He deserves it. Good dude. Very fun to have on the Happy Hour show as well. He'll probably be on soon as well. Guys, have a great day, and go Knicks.